Is it healthy to masturbate to the fantasies we have in our mind? Hey everyone, Dimitri here, Pornography Addiction Recovery Coach. This is a question that's been asked to me by Ahmed in the group, and I wanted to address this excellent question. It's raining a lot. It's raining a lot here. And my car broke down, and a complete stranger came and untied his battery from his car to jumpstart my battery. How thoughtful and touching. I just felt like sharing that act of goodness that's not related to the video. So there's a lot to unpack there. Pornography. Okay, the ultimate object to understand the mind is the fantasy. Fantasy is the ultimate object. Pornography is a repository of fantasies. I see there's a few people joining the live here. You're welcome to say hi if you feel so inclined. Pornography is a repository of fantasies. The worst thing to do is to watch pornography and masturbate to pornography. Because when you do that, you feed yourself from the fantasies that people are having, which may not be your fantasies. They may be potentially traumatic. And every fantasy is based on non-consent. Hey, Kevin. Every fantasy is based on non-consent. This is a topic for later. And it might seem puzzling, even if it's like romance and princesses, it's based on non-consent. So fantasies, pornography is a very reproducible of fantasies. Masturbating to pornography, your brain is conditioning itself to have an orgasm while watching something that is based on non-consent, and that is based on fantasies. So that's the worst thing you can do, and that's how you get addicted to pornography, is by coupling these two together. When you're having an orgasm, you have a peak experience. And every time you do something new, you have a peak experience. But orgasm is a peak experience that can be reproduced. And when you have a peak experience, all the guardians of the unconscious mind, the gates of the unconscious mind just open, and everything you see just floods your mind and gets imprinted there, not forever, but for a long time. So anytime you masturbate to pornography, to something more and more extreme and escalating to the extreme, you're conditioning your brain to wanting this more, because the brain is coupling the rush of dopamine with the images that it's seeing on the screen. This is very, very bad. This is how you get addicted to pornography. It's what happened to me, probably what happens to a lot of you guys. Some people say, hey, what if I want to keep watching pornography but not masturbate to pornography? I'll just watch pornography, then stop, and then masturbate away from that. Well, it's probably not going to happen. Enjoying pornography for the sheer sake of pornography is pretty rare, so I don't recommend you do that. But if that's your way of processing information, then by all means do it, but it's not efficient to stop pornography. Now, what about, Hamid's question is, I have fantasies, which can be more or less deviant or more or less strange or non-consensual, or that are present, and I use pornography to feed these fantasies and then masturbate to these fantasies. Is it bad to use the fantasies I have in my head to masturbate? First of all, no. Everybody has fantasies, however deviant, whatever's happening in your mind. You don't choose your fantasies choose you. And the truth of the story is that your personal history determines your fantasy, and your personal trauma determines your fantasy. Any fantasy is based on trauma. Prove me wrong. There's no study on that. It's my personal observation, and I know I'm right. Every fantasy is based on trauma. The role of the sexual fantasy is to create sexual comfort so that we're able to ejaculate. The fantasy is a prehistoric construct that has been built so that we feel safe when we have sex, so that we can pass our genes on to the next generation to ensure orgasm. That's the role of the fantasy is only that. But now in our sexuality, because it can be reproductive or not reproductive, but the fantasy has played a big role in our sexualities now. So it is very healthy to masturbate to fantasies. For the most part, and it's a million times healthier to masturbate to fantasies than to masturbate to pornography. So if you want to quit pornography, one of the really healthy things to do is that anytime you're triggered to watch pornography, just move away from pornography and just masturbate to your fantasies. And this way you will not force that conditioning of your brain onto screen images and being passive. You will have to turn on your brain and fantasize. When I was a child, I used to fantasize. I was always being hypersexual. I used to fantasize for hours and hours and hours in the car, in the back of the car, parents are driving. I used to fantasize for 2, 3, 4 hours in a row. That's all I was doing. I was pretending to sleep and fantasizing about sexual stuff. Kind of weird, kind of is what it is. And that's very healthy. As an adult, the more we watch Netflix and porn and pornography and stuff like that, the more we get lazy and we lose that ability to fantasize and project ourselves into an imaginary world. But this is super healthy to do that. It will make you smarter, or it will make you use your brain better, and you'll be relying on fantasies that belong to you, not that belong to someone else. So that's the first step. If you feel triggered to watching pornography and masturbate, move away from pornography and just masturbate off your own fantasies. Kevin, so basically when you watch porn, you take in what you're watching. When you imagine, you can only experience what you already know. Exactly that, Kevin. And it wouldn't be bad if, all the things you were to see in pornography were, people kissing each other and being nice to each other. But pornography is the repository of all the repression and trauma of the world. So when you connect to that object and have an orgasm and open the gates of the unconscious mind to that, you're just rushing all this darkness into your brain and conditioning yourself to loving it. Very, very bad. Not very bad morally. I don't care about morality. It's very bad for you. It's unhealthy. Then, I used to do that. I used to have been traumatized by pornography and have extreme fantasies in mind. Even then, when I had quit pornography, I was still masturbating to these, let's call it toxic or, dark fantasies, and I didn't like that. So then the way you move away from that, first, it's a major step. When you quit pornography, congratulations, that's a major, major step. Like masturbating to less extreme stuff is just way down the line, the second priority. And if you're there already, congratulations, that's completely awesome. If you want to get rid of that, then a couple of things you can do. The first one is to, obviously reprocess the trauma that's creating these fantasies using trauma reprocessing techniques, and I can help you with that if you feel the need, or anyone else in the world who does trauma reprocessing can help you. But it'd be a pleasure to help you. And another thing you can do is to masturbate, and at the time when you orgasm, because you're still passively putting these images into your own head. Like when you're still in front of a screen, but that screen is in your mind, but you're still masturbating to certain images. At the time so to get the arousal going, masturbate onto everything you want. But at the time when you're going to have an orgasm, just think about something gentle. Just think about the kind of fantasies that you want to fantasize in reality. Like if you want to fantasize about, regular intercourse, which was the goal for me, just simple intercourse, then at the time of orgasm, I would just focus on images of intercourse. And then as you do that, little by little, you'll be forgetting these extreme fantasies and masturbating to more and more regular things. Because at the time of peak experience, the images that you rely on are less extreme. And your brain is deconditioning itself to these images. Okay? So long story short, masturbating to pornography and having an orgasm creates really bad conditioning for your brain, and it will crave you more pornography and more extreme pornography and more time on pornography. It's very unhealthy. If you have fantasies that you want to fantasize on, then that's fine. You can do that. Hey, Hamid is here. Beautiful. Hi. But a step further would be to stop masturbating to fantasies, to masturbate with attention on physical sensation as meditation. Absolutely. That's the healthiest thing. If I think about my first time, being pretty vulnerable here, but if I think about my first time with a girl, there was zero fantasy involved. I was just in the moment feeling the feelings. It was great. So then that's the next step. Absolutely. So there will be fantasies as long as there is some amount of trauma. There will be fantasies that will be residing there and present. And the more you heal those traumas, the more you'll be reverting to a normative sexuality. That's exactly what's happened to me, from extreme pornography to weird stuff to normal stuff to like the fantasies that I was thinking about when I was 5 years old, or just pretty girls, or my fiance, just regular stuff. And that happens with a lot of trauma, not a lot, 5-6 sessions of trauma reprocessing that I did. I've seen my sex addiction just collapse into this normal world of sex. It was really odd. Really, really odd. So yes, eventually you want to give up the fantasies and just fall into the physical sensations and just being in the moment. Fantasy is a mental construct. When you're having sex, you don't want to be in your head. You want to be in your body. So as long as you're in your head, there's some mechanism of protection that's involved to make you feel safe. And so there's a flag from the past that is being flagged by this construct of the fantasy. Trauma reprocessing and masturbating to things that are more and more normal can help. Do you feel that that answers the question, Ahmed? Or is there something else that I feel like needs to be said? Ultimately, sex was the most normal sexual behavior is to see a pretty girl and be attracted to her and want to have sex with her, without any blather or BDSM, or I'm just taking about a personal example, or weird power play at stake. You just want to, hey, you're pretty, do you want to make love and pass my genes into your pool of genes and we make babies? That's the role of sex. But now the sex has become very mental and very representational and symbolic, whereas you don't need a symbol. The fantasy is a symbol, but you don't need a symbol. Sex is just, hey, you're pretty, let's have sex and make babies together, in the primitive sense. So that's my answer. It's a long answer. I hope this is helpful. Let us know in the comments how that resonates for you, if that makes sense. If you want to hear more about the process that I use to decondition from pornography and the role with trauma reprocessing, why our fantasies linked to trauma and this kind of stuff, I'll attach a link to the masterclass below in the comments so you can learn more about that. Take care, guys, and I hope this is helpful. See you.